Hi, okay.
People
Happy.
are already here and already talking about what they're drinking. I love this.
Good for
I
them.
love our people.
That is that's amazing. So everybody is please keep sharing what you're drinking. I am having water, so that's very sad and
I
just
have not
terribly
had that.
sad. Um, are you having anything, Tiffany?
No, I literally have nothing. Like I might have to get up
Okay,
during
can
the
you get
call
up and
and
get
go
a
and
drink
get
because
an espresso or something.
one
No,
no 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 it has
everything will
to
break if I do because I'm far from my kitchen.
but
And
that's fine. But you need to have an alcoholic drink because I cannot. So at least I can live vicariously
why can't you
through
have an alcoholic drink?
because it's after I'm doing this. I'm trying the intermittent fasting thing, and it's after 5:30, so I can't. So
There's no
uh,
calories in alcohol if you're just drinking like straight vodka.
you're not supposed to have anything except water or like tea or whatever. So please, it would make me happy. It's like yesterday I
I'm
had
not
four.
going to have a drink. No,
Okay,
right
well
now.
then that's less exciting. I had four to eat a piece of cake because I lived vicariously through watching him eat it. So that's the point of
That's
desperation we're
kind of
at
hot.
now. It's I mean, it is what it is. So whatever it is. So what does everybody drink?
Yeah, Ben got a haircut. So
After
tell
two
us about
months,
that. Is Florida open for hair cutting? Did you sneak someone in, or like what's the?
okay, look, real talk. I'm not going to pretend.
Like yeah, because people have questions. Like
It's
you're the
it's
only
a
person on the internet who's had a haircut, but you're in Florida, so maybe now you're also
it is a good
dead.
question. So it's been 2 months. I have been a good boy inside. So our hair person, who is probably this is like it's not just travel businesses that are going to change. All businesses are going to change because she's like, I'm not going back to the salon. I'm just going to start going to people's houses because actually that's just how things are evolving. So anyway, she came over. We wore masks and we were careful. I mean, it's going to happen sooner or later, and we'd rather just do it and put on masks. And we were as careful as we could be. And I haven't been anywhere in 2 weeks, and I'm not going anywhere for the next 2 weeks. So I had to get it out of the way at some point. And so yes, I'm embarrassed. I think I should be humiliated to admit it, but there's a lot of social shame associated. But you know what? I feel so much better with like waking up and not being like, what is this on my head? So I got
Well, a
an
lot
extra.
of people have been having their like spouses or children cut their hair, which is pretty enjoyable. I think that's some of the best content on the internet right now.
It is, but for everybody's sake, like that was not a good idea in our household. So yeah, that was skip that this time, but
But
maybe
it's an
maybe next time.
interesting question because like we have this very complicated phase plan. It's not actually complicated. It's just we have the same plan in Washington as they have in New Zealand, but New Zealand has like tests and camaraderie. In Washington, we have, we border with British Columbia and Idaho, so we're having a different experience in general.
How is the opening working, or what is opening, or what is
Well, I don't know, because so Spokane is like it's complicated because part of the whole like how do you progress down the yellow brick road here is based off of things like the number of ICU beds available and population size. But Spokane has been doing a really good job of things. So we're like applying to get consideration to like don't count our population, just look at these other things. We can go to phase two. But phase two involves letting housekeepers resume work. And it's sort of then similar to like your hairdresser. Like on the one hand, maybe it's better to have someone coming in than for me to go out. But then like they're going between like 19 different places. And is that actually any worse than going like to the salon?
right?
Like I
And,
don't
and
know.
and I think this is the problem. Obviously, I have been completely on board with staying home and listening to what the government says. I think the problem at this point is, obviously it started as 2 weeks and another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks. And the reality is like it's probably going to be this way for months, maybe years, like in terms of maybe I just don't have much faith in the system, but like I don't think things are actually going to materially change for the better in terms of like here in Miami, for example, on Monday they're opening now, or I think Monday or Wednesday, depending on what part of Miami. I love that as well. They're opening restaurants and stuff, which just seems not brilliant, but
Well, but at least in Florida, we were talking about this too for here. Like in Florida, you have outdoor seating. Like in Spokane, there's like four places that have outdoor seating, and it's generally two tables. So like you're not opening.
that's
Yeah. But I think that's really good. Like the testing is the biggest thing. Everyone should be like, call your congressman. I can put up the phone number for like the White House switchboard if that would be helpful, and or the congressional switchboard to call and be like, hey, what's our national testing plan? Because the
or you
countries that
could
are
just
doing
tweet.
it, like Bevins in Australia, like they're just living life because they have tests. Anyway, somebody was asking me what is wrong with British Columbia. Nothing, but I think there's nothing wrong with British Columbia. They're lovely and have lovely food, and it's great. But it's just the intersection of where Washington is. You get like it's not quite Canada and it's not quite Idaho. So our politics here locally are sort of a mess. Is basically what it boils down to.
Fair. So let's see here.
I love all the hair. The haircut is a relatable problem, is I think what it boils down to.
Well, it's like it was such a mind F because I'm like, I don't want to be that person who's like, I need to get my haircut. And it wasn't like I need to get my haircut, but I'm just like, is there a difference
between drape yourself in the American flag rather than the typical, barber setup?
I'm like, if I wait now versus in 2 weeks versus 2 weeks later versus 2 weeks later, I'm like, what's actually changing? And if I'm going to be home anyway, and not, we only go out with masks and everything. So anyway. Yeah,
I feel like maybe we should have people do a post on like where you get some masks that are not horrible looking.
Yeah,
because I feel like Americans and Europeans would buy on to the mask situation if there were like interesting patterns and fabrics and it was, there was some style to it versus surgical masks. And
I mean, some airlines are learning. They're creating fashionable, branded masks for their crews, and
yeah.
Welcome to 2020, I guess.
Right. I did order some on Etsy that were made with like Liberty London fabric. I'm like, this is sort of fun. It sort of looks like the BA amenity kits. I'm like, I'll wear these.
That's cute. Now, are they going to arrive anytime soon? Because the problem I find with anything that looks nice on the internet is like, yeah, it'll be there in like, July 2021.
Oh, so this is my Etsy hack. Look for things that are shipped from near you. So like these are coming from some from Spokane and some from Seattle. Yeah, Paula is saying Etsy has a ton of masks. Yeah, Etsy's a good resource. But like when I got the coffee tumbler for you, I looked for somebody who was like in the southeast of the U.S. because, of course, I don't think about these things a month ahead of time. So it was like somebody in Georgia. I'm like, so it'll ship quickly to Tampa.
I did not realize the geography impacted that, but I guess that makes sense.
And then you get to support the post office as well. So it's like a 2-for-1 in terms of.
Right. Yeah, which I need to go to the post office at some point, but I have been.
My stamps arrived today, which was really fun. Like there is actually something a little meta about having the post office deliver stamps in the mail.
Do you have to pay for postage on the stamps?
Yeah.
Oh.
But it was like 75 cents or something,
The stamps don't get to ship free? I mean, you'd think.
No, the post office is already like amazingly priced and a national treasure. So like, I don't think we should be encouraging them to discount their shipping rates.
No, that's fair.
Right? Like whatever it costs for them to get things from literally anywhere in America to literally anywhere else. I think it's
true.
Fine. I think it's fine. Okay, there was some other question.
There are a lot of questions here that are good.
There's a lot of questions, but a lot of them have to do with. Yeah, Pedro, you're asking me a question that is going to get me ranted about on the internet. So I don't think we will be talking about how the only responsibility of the executive branch of the government is to execute the laws passed by the legislative branch of the government. We can save that for a day when I've had a drink. So talking about miles and points, Ben, Danielle's asking it, and I think lots of people have asked. I know, we keep talking about this too. This is also fun. Will points not be worth as much once this is over, or will airlines let people use points to try to force cash payments since they want the revenue so badly? What do you think? My mom asked. Not my mom, because as you guys learned on Sunday, my mom doesn't know anything.
Someone's mom asked. Okay.
A mom.
A mom asked. Oh, perfect. Hello, A mom. I think for the most part, miles will probably be worth a bit more in the sense that, especially at the beginning, airlines are going to want to fill seats. And when it comes to first and business class travel, especially if we think that business travel is going to recover very slowly, there's going to be a lot of vacant first and business class seats. And they're probably going to want to fill those, even if it's with miles. So I think the short-term prospects of redeeming miles are great. Medium to long-term, we'll see how that evolves. I mean, airlines are retiring a lot of planes. So even in a few years, capacity in the industry will be significantly below what it was, several months ago. And so if demand did fully recover, which most people don't think it will in the next few years, then in theory, supply and demand, airfare would go up and maybe they'd make it harder to redeem miles. But I am mostly optimistic about miles. I mean, just look at the promotions we've seen. I don't necessarily think airlines should be promoting right now, telling people to fly, but we are seeing promotions again, which we've not seen otherwise, basically in a decade, encouraging people to fly. So that's exciting in terms of what we can maybe anticipate in the future. So I am feeling positive about frequent flyer programs personally. Let's hope that let's hope that loyalty program executives don't disappoint us.
Well, I think that's also interesting because we've talked about this a little bit on some previous happy hours, but in many cases, the loyalty program management roles have like many of the people in them are a little bit miscast right
Mm.
now
Yep.
because those loyalty programs have shifted so heavily to not really being loyalty programs, but
Yep.
being like frequent buyer programs. So it'll be interesting to see like how that shuffles. Do those programs get restructured? Like, does management change? Do they start looking at like what are the other ways that we can build loyalty that aren't just transactional? Like it's been getting
For
so
sure.
transactional. Like, do you think that we'll see things be,
Well, I mean, I'm impressed in many
transactional?
ways. We've already seen some initiatives that are surprising to me because I wouldn't figure that executives and programs in some cases would be this, what is the polite word to say?
Proactive,
Um, yes. So, for
resilient,
example, like
flexible, creative
I think
with it?
JetBlue's move today, for example, JetBlue just announced that those who are Mosaic members, they can gift somebody else Mosaic that's valid from this June till next June. That's absolutely brilliant because planes are going to be empty. And as people start flying again, you can bet that people's friends will be flying JetBlue if they have Mosaic status. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
really smart way. And especially if you want to travel with friends and family or you want to extend your perks to family, I think it's so great. We're going to see a lot of people traveling to see family in the near future. Once people start traveling, that's probably among the first travel they'll do. So we've seen a few things that are cool. Air Canada, they are allowing people who earn status to gift status. So like I'm inspired by the fact I'm hopeful because of some of the initiatives we've seen. And if we keep seeing these, I think it's going to be a really fun era for loyalty again,
Yeah,
which has
I
not
think so
been the
too.
case for the past several years, just to clarify.
Yeah, no, I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. I saw did you see the Alaska one that I sent you?
I love that. Yes, the you can fit if you do a
Right, they're
certain amount.
partnering with like a fitness tracker app. It's like why not? Like,
I just
and
like you
it's
said in the when you sent it to me. I wish they weren't. It's a sweepstakes or a giveaway. So one person gets 100,000 miles. I wish they'd give you like everybody 100 miles, whatever, for participating or something. But basically, you put the health app on your phone, and if you do a certain amount of exercise, you're entered. Like that's a great concept. S7
yeah.
is giving people an incentive to stay home. You get miles every day just for checking in home. I think it's cool to say like work out a little bit, show some exercise. Like that's what a lot of people need after being inside for so long. So very innovative. I love it. So I think we're going to see more cool things, and I'm optimistic about that. Just to be clear,
At
just
least
about the
that
programs,
specific thing.
loyalty programs, not the
I mean, take
airlines,
optimism where you can find it right now.
not the experience, not the survival out of airlines, but loyalty programs as such. I feel good about.
Yeah. Okay, so this is sort of along the same lines, but let's talk about WestJet and other carriers like WestJet that have maybe just recently started expanding their business model a little bit. So like WestJet they just started doing international flights. They have a new business class product with like the world's slowest meal service. Is that going to continue? Will we keep seeing stuff like that, or do you think we'll see more carriers go back to basics?
For sure, I think we're going to
I
see more
mean, I know
carriers.
that no one knows anything, but like, what do you think?
I would definitely think going back to basics, and I think sort of a lot of the innovations we've seen, whether it's passenger experience or even expanding in certain ways, like United has done an amazing job with creating point-to-point routes that are leisure routes. We could still see that in some capacity, but like I don't think we'll see quite as much creativity or like taking of risks since airlines can't really afford to get things wrong at this point once things get better. So I think unfortunately,
But like, what is a risk right now?
well, everything right now is a risk, right? So, but once things start to normalize, like, we saw the world's 15 longest routes. I think 12 of them were started in the past few years. Like, I wonder, is Newark, Singapore going to stick around? Is LA, Singapore, San Francisco, Singapore? Like, with some frequency, I'm sure they will, but are they sustainable at the previous levels, especially
That's
business?
actually something I've been wondering about. So if like countries have more restrictions, right, and not everybody has the most sterile of airside transit and things like that, um, would like sorry, I just lost all my words. But could we see more of those really long flights, but maybe not daily frequencies? Because I was thinking about that. Like if you're in Singapore and you want to go to wherever, Or like Project Sunrise is maybe a better idea if it lets you avoid having to connect in some place with like connecting in Dubai right now or Doha. Connecting in Doha sounds terrifying because they're flying freaking everywhere.
And that is a fantastic thing I keep going back and forth in my head about. I don't know what the answer is. I guess most people, would you rather be on one plane for 20 hours or would you rather connect in a major hub and be able to stretch your legs? Because like a lot of people historically have preferred, okay, if you can get off a plane and, they don't mind transit, even though, flights like Perth to London have worked out okay. But is this an era now where people don't want to connect at airports because you're getting off a plane, you're exposed to people in the airport, you're exposed to more people on the next flight? I think the problem is it takes business travelers to make long and thin routes like that work. And if business travel doesn't recover to where it was, then who's going to be paying the $10,000 tickets that make those flights profitable? It's sad that it's going to be a new, do you think we're going to see more of those?
Well, it's interesting because, my perspective is a little different because there's what I personally care about and don't care about. And then there's all of our clients who we deal with who tend to be a little bit older and a little bit more cautious when it comes to their travel and like really just want that nonstop flight and are willing to pay a premium for it. That's not a huge market. That's, those older baby boomers who, have the resources and, it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll just come back from Milan instead because we can fly Milan to Los Angeles direct.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how many of the, like, there's definitely a demand, but I don't know how much of a demand there is or what the price elasticity is there.
That's the question.
So I don't know, but it's interesting to think about because I do think that like we would have people who we could say, okay, well, you can take the nonstop flight. It only operates on Sundays. And they'd say, oh, that's fine. Like we'll happily stay an extra day versus having to connect and deal with whatever extra hassle.
Yeah, I mean, airlines have been in such a battle with one another for, we saw this even between Singapore Airlines and United flying San Francisco to Singapore with frequencies, with everything. So now to see this go back a bit and we're not going to see those number of frequencies anymore. So will the competition work in the same way or will it be about, oh, we fly nonstop. It might only be 3 times a week, but at least we do it versus.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, what do those route networks then end up looking like? Because it's like hub spoke, but it could be really interesting. Like I could see Delta out of Salt Lake offering like flights to London 2 days a week and to Paris 2 days a week and to Rome 2 days a week as their summer schedule. And that probably being fine.
Yep. We'll see.
Which is crazy to think about, but yeah.
I mean, the next few years to see how aircraft orders evolve, how many planes can be deferred for delivery. Delta's retiring all their 777s. What else are they going to retire? What is any of this actually going to look like?
Yeah, is that a super surprise retirement of the 777? Like, how much of a surprise was that?
Delta is such a unique airline because when you look at American United, what they're focused on, it's so different than Delta because Delta has done an amazing job of flying old-ass planes and making them look nice and be comfortable. So the fact that they have 100 767, some of them are very old. Like the 767 has a bad business class product, a bad whatever, but there are a lot of markets where that's the plane that works. Like for many secondary, especially either high frequency Europe destinations or secondary markets in Europe, that's just the plane you have to do. The 777 is too big. So I guess it's not surprising in the sense that the LATAM deal was going to happen and they were going to have to take over the A350s that were supposed to go to LATAM. So given that, they didn't need all those planes, but still, I mean,
the timeline is more surprising.
They just spent tens of millions of dollars retrofitting these planes. Of course, they didn't plan on this happening, but to spend so much money installing brand new seats on planes, and then weeks later, it was literally in February that they finished installing the new business class suites.
Can you imagine that meeting?
That's not a fun one. I mean, that's a yeah.
And just we did the math, and this is unquestionably what we have to do.
It's crazy. Crazy time to be alive. I mean, I don't think anyone quite saw things playing out like this.
I mean, you can't plan for a lot of things.
No, let's see.
There was a question that I was. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to controversially say, Qatar Airways has this ridiculous thing where you can fly to anywhere within 5,000 miles, and if people, maybe you can link to the post or something so that whatever. But I mean, I think most people probably know what I'm talking about, so I don't have to explain the whole thing, or should
Right.
I?
I'm actually the only one here who hasn't read the blog
Okay,
post.
so basically, Tiffany, I'll explain it to you. Forget these people.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Qatar Airways has a policy, a rebooking policy. Wait, who is calling? I don't know what that is. Okay.
Right. Do people, who could be calling you who doesn't know that it's happy hour time? It's been happy hour time at this time every day for months now.
That's a good question. Sorry. So Qatar Airways, they have a generous rebooking policy. A lot of airlines let you rebook, without fees, but Qatar Airways will let you change your destination on your ticket by up to 5,000 miles. So in other words, you could book a business class ticket from Doha to Athens round trip, and you could change it to fly Doha to New York, and there's no change fee, no fare difference, no anything. Or
5,000 miles is not a small number of miles.
Right, exactly. So you could book a ticket to Hong Kong and go to Sydney. So, or for example, they have the those amazing fares JFK to Kiev via Doha for $1,600 in business class. So you could book that, call them 5 minutes later, and change it to JFK to Doha to Hong Kong for the same price. So in other words, you can go basically anywhere, most places in Asia, most places in Africa, or anywhere in Europe on Qatar Airways in business class for $1,600. Now, of course, this sounds like I feel bad if it's not really how the system is intended. But I'm going to controversially perhaps say that, this is only for travel in 2020. Like airlines have basically
I think they actually probably just don't care.
Exactly. They've written off the year. Like this is actually, I think, now I'm saying to myself, I'm shocked another airline executive did not come up with this is actually a really fun way to engage people. How many people are really going to fly before the end of 2020 internationally?
Right.
What can you really plan for? Like, it's not actually a terrible promotion, and it doesn't cost. They're giving away 100,000 tickets to healthcare workers, which is a nice gesture, but clearly they're also doing it because they know the planes are going to be empty.
Right. Well, and Qatar has also really been committed to, we're going to keep flying. We're going to be the airline that gets you home.
Yes.
So it's like, if you're committing to that for whatever reasons, possibly the fact that you don't have to care about your balance sheet, then why not? That's sort of. So are you booking something for December? Maybe why not?
Well, because where do I want to go in Qatar Airways for $1,600 anywhere in the world sounds nice, but who knows what's actually going to happen? Like I'm laying low when it comes to that, because I feel like I don't know where. We have trips still. Like for example, Namibia. Technically, we're supposed to, because we canceled our trip. We were supposed to go several weeks ago. And they gave us a credit till the end of the year. So I assume that will be hopefully extended again. But in other words, when I can travel and when it's safe to go to Namibia or responsible, then I'm going to go. That's the first place on my list. So
you're pretty booked is what I'm hearing.
Yes. So I'm waiting. I don't want to plan anything. I think this year is all about last minute planning, like when it's possible, or the next couple of years maybe, because let's see, this could be a up, down, up, down. So
yeah, I feel like I will feel much more confident once we have half a clue in America. If I live somewhere else, I think if I lived in Germany, I would feel more confident about booking things and that I would be allowed in, right? And because that's sort of my concern now, is that those blue passports are going to, rather than be the oh yeah, it's fine, you can just go, it's going to be like
What does half a clue look like in practice here in the U.S. to you?
One, we are constitutionally limited in sort of how these things happen in general. That's by design. We are disjointed by design. So that's not the problem. But there's no plan. There's no testing. There's no contact tracing. Washington is getting it together, but Spokane might not be included in Washington getting it together because we're 10 miles from the exuberant parts of Idaho, to put it nicely. And it's maybe a little bit more complicated, but I think a really good example, we talked about this a little bit this morning, New Zealand has basically eradicated COVID with their here's what we're doing, here's what we're testing, here's what we're tracing. And they had 3 cases last week. 2 of them were people who caught it abroad, but they were this is the plan, caught it coming into the airport, blah, blah, blah. And the 3rd person, within a couple of days, they'd contacted everyone who that person had come in contact with over the past 3 weeks, and they were self-isolating. So it's if we had something like that where you were confident, that's the problem right now, is if you confidently knew who had it and who didn't have it. Even you as a person, like I think I may have had it. There's no way to know, right? Because the antibody tests aren't super accurate. We don't
No, you
really know
can
what's
take
going
it and then you
on.
can take it again and then you can take it again.
Right. And like we don't know, like what does having the antibody test mean? Like, does it mean you can't get it again? Does it mean you're not contagious? And we don't know. So that's I think the challenge is like right now we have to assume that everyone in America potentially has it, and like that's no way to live. You can't live that way. Right. Bevan's pointing out that like New Zealand had a 4 week lockdown. We've been locked down in Washington for 8 weeks now, and still like who knows? These kids are never going back to school in Washington is basically we're literally questioning why we have schools.
It's
If
true.
there's money allocated for them, like why are we building schools? We're never going back. We should spend that money on something else. But we did have here, which I think is actually really smart. I don't know how, this is the only state I've lived in that has this, but Washington has a Department of Motor Vehicles, and separately they have a Department of Licensing. They're not the same, which is odd because in California it's like the DMV. So all of the licensing people who are used to working with like databases and knowing where people live and like handling all of that are basically now contact tracers. And so we have like 3,000 people doing contact tracing starting now, right, which is like more than in the rest of America combined pretty much, it seems, or at least in New York. So we'll see. Right. I love how Pedro's chiming in saying that like he's not traveling anywhere because he thinks he's still going to be in El Salvador.
Hi, Pedro. How's that going? Pedro, before we started this, I was telling Tiffany, I can't believe that guy is still. That's a long time to be there.
Yeah.
But good for you. Have you found a place to live yet permanently, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know, Pedro. Maybe we should do like a little. You should do a little guest post about like what it's like to be unexpected, move to a country unexpectedly.
And all those life miles you're earning through dry cleaners and stuff. Hopefully that's still, I'm confident. Hopefully that it works out. But yeah, that would suck if something happened to life miles and suddenly you couldn't earn miles anymore for paying cash for dry cleaning. So
right, that would be the greatest tragedy of the situation. Obviously. Yeah. What else do you want to talk about, Ben? What else do you guys want to talk about?
Well, okay. So first, I'm going to say along those lines.
Other than the fact that Sean M has all of his airplane parts or something stuck with FedEx.
Airplane what? Cards?
I don't know. He's got parts stuck with FedEx. Yeah, you should be using USPS. Is what should be happening.
Where are they
being
shipped from? Oh, that's
right. Who knows? But
are they coming from Brazil based on the aircraft type? I would think maybe.
Right, but do they have to come through the U.S.? Or are they just stuck in like that black hole in like around Nashville where there's just all of those big distribution centers?
A few weeks ago, I ended up down, speaking of that, a rabbit hole of it's a show on Netflix about like immigration officers where, it follows immigration officers, including the people in like the freight, who are looking through shipments to try to find whatever the hell.
In the US or like in Australia where they're like, you tried to bring in honey from a different state
no.
And therefore we're going to like
in the US, but it was equally ridiculous because they're so self-righteous. You bring in, it's not even like they weren't bringing in half a cow. It was like somebody brought in whatever. And then like obviously
like a
some
quarter
people
of a ham, like what is it was where's the line?
Whatever it is, but like it's obviously people mostly know they're breaking the rules. I love the like, well, I asked you if you had anything, why didn't you say anything? And then they're like, ooh, now you can't talk. So anyway, just very, delightful. And then they let them go every time. There's not even a fine. I'm like, they're going to do the same thing next time.
Right. They're just having the angriness thing. Do you know, have you heard what service is like right now if you're flying international first? Like if you were actually to take one of these Qatar fares in business, like is it still dine on demand or is it like pack your own bag? Or if somebody, Chris is asking if he got on Lufthansa first from Frankfurt, what would the experience be like on the ground and on board?
That is, I asked myself that. I was thinking about that today. So Qatar, so their A380s are grounded, so you have business. I'm trying to think what airlines right now and maybe you guys can answer down below, what airlines are actually offering first class? So I guess Lufthansa, aren't they just flying like, they're not flying A380s, aren't they just flying A350s? Are there, and if it's Lufthansa, what routes? Because I was thinking about this. What airlines, I guess Emirates, they're going to start officially May 21st
Right.
with some. Emirates, by the way, up until now, what they've been doing is, because they're only doing these repatriation-esque flights up until now where you passengers one way and it's empty back. So they leave first class empty. The crew gets first class so that they can rest because they're double staffed. So they have two sets of pilots and everything. And they just.
That's smart.
So yeah, what airlines right now are offering first class?
And what is first class
Yeah, is it a thing anymore?
for those airlines? That's a good blog post. You should write it.
Okay, Etihad, no. Yeah, if anybody knows, I don't
This is
think
something,
they're.
if you work for an airline social media team, this would actually be really good content that no one's doing. It's like, what is the experience like on board internationally, rather than just letting other people be like, oh my gosh, the plane is full. I have no ability to think logically. And thus I'm sad.
China Southern has A380s in the air right now. That's true. So I'm sure. Here, let me tell you about their first class experience during good times, and then we can talk about. I'm
Right.
sure
So
not a
actually,
whole lot.
nothing has changed. They're offering their
Nothing has
normal
changed.
service. But I think it would be
Had-
really interesting is Asiana and Korean aren't doing anything. Is Korean doing their 777s?
They are to some places, I think. So Asiana, they don't have first anymore. They just have the business suite.
I like
Korean
how
does.
people are mentioning British Airways. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that doesn't really count. They're like, okay. But yes, yeah. So I mean, I haven't heard about too many cuts. I assume there are cuts, but airlines don't outline international service in the same way they do domestic service.
Right.
It would be, if anybody knows, if anybody has like an answer as to what, I will dig into it otherwise. But
Yeah.
it
And
is
like,
a great.
how does that work given recommendations and guidances like we should all be wearing masks and we should be maintaining distance from people? Like, there shouldn't be any expectation of social distancing on a plane. That requires a tremendous suspension of disbelief if you think that's going to happen.
Also, how does the current mask situation, always wearing masks on planes, go with eating meals on planes? So I understand you can take them off, but like if you're enjoying your meal slowly, do you leave your mask up for 30 minutes? Do you put a bite in and then you put the mask on and then you just, what is the right thing there?
Right. It's basically the whole mask thing. So somebody who has dealt with SARS should let us know, like, what did the social etiquette become around that when that was happening? But we need all new social mores. Mores?
Like
How do you
if
say
you're
that
enjoying
word?
a beverage,
Moires. How do you say that word?
what?
Moires is the word for like social protocols, but I don't know
I
how to
don't
say
know
it
what that
because I
word
don't know how to
means,
pronounce
so
words.
I won't know how to pronounce it. China Southern. What I would give to fly China
You're saying
Southern.
JAL is still offering first class. That would be a like.
Especially in Japan, you'd wonder the balance because it's like there's a certain pride associated with the product. What are you going to do? Serve a.
But also there are rules, and there's a love of rules. So that could just be the thing, like the JAL and ANA model for how to handle first class. So Sean is pointing out, like in their jurisdiction, they've specifically banned consumption of food and drink in flight so that it's not even a question.
Which
Yeah,
kind
good
of
luck
makes
with that in other.
And is it now, okay, here's the other question. It gets back to airplane etiquette. Is it, if you're in first class and you have a private suite, now if you're in the Emirates 777, for example, first class suite on the new first, now it's not flying right now, is it more acceptable to take off your mask if you're not within 6 feet of anybody and like if you can social distance on a plane? Does that change what's right to do? I don't know. All these all these new problems.
These are all different things, but it's the same sort of thing. And like, I hope that we address them more collaboratively than we've addressed things like Bluetooth headphones. Because as we were talking about earlier today, I know you guys weren't all here when I was ranting at Ben and Howie about.
I mean, Bluetooth headphones are always a.
But that's the thing. It's like all of a sudden we stopped having devices sold with headphone jacks. And people stopped realizing, like, hey, I should connect my Bluetooth headphones to my device. Or airlines are like, turn off your Bluetooth. And so it's like, okay, I'm just going to play bejeweled with the volume up on the entire flight, and somehow that became socially acceptable. So it's like I would really like to get us all on the same mask plan so that we don't have a repeat of the
Well,
bejeweled
there was a
flight.
video of the
It's
person.
literally my number one pet peeve on a plane or in any social space. Like, I hate people who are rude. Like, there's just no excuse for rudeness. It's like, who raised you? If your mother were here, she'd be embarrassed. So, right? I mean,
No, the lounge that or the people watching videos. Yes, and lounge is
right.
everything. There's
I know. And I am that person. You'll all be shocked to hear that. But I
you're
have
what?
decided, like, I will walk up to someone in the lounge and be like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, like, I don't know if you know, but we can hear your conversation even if we leave the lounge. Like, I could hear it in the terminal. And um, I just don't know if you want everyone to know what your dinner plans are. But like, I think I can get away with a little bit. Um, yeah.
good job. That's yeah.
Well, it's like somebody has to say something, right?
I
Like
agree.
we had like a webinar with the city this week as well because there's was like a whole, water saving, landscaping, whatever. But like half of the people who called in don't know how to use technology because it's Spokane and the internet and old people. And people were talking while the person was presenting, and I literally just like took myself off mute and I was like, "Hi, sorry for interrupting." But I think all the people who called in over the phone don't realize that we can hear them having conversations about like their grocery list, and like you should mute so that the rest of us can hear. And like all of a sudden everybody was muted. But like the poor presenter, she's like, 24 and trying to get through her presentation. So it's like somebody just has to be the person who says the things. Might as well be me. I don't
I
care.
that's So I was going to briefly talk about. So somebody brought up Iceland. I briefly talked to Tiffany about this before, and realistically, I posted a few days ago about when is it responsible to travel again, and many people said it ranged from I've been flying all along, you guys are fools, to which ignore those people, to people who said I'm not going to fly until there's a vaccine, which I appreciate in theory, but as Tiffany was saying, that might be never or many years down the road.
Viruses are complicated, is just the thing with vaccines, right? It's not like viruses are complicated.
So, in light of that, realistically, how can one be responsible while also not letting, we don't want tourism to completely die. I mean, tourism employs roughly 10% of the world population, and especially that's largely true as well in developing parts of the world. So how do you balance that? Because if that stops for years, it's not just about, the stock market, it's about people's lives and their ability to eat and support their families and get access to healthcare otherwise. So I don't know what the right balance is. My point is, Iceland seems like the first country that has proposed a concept for tourism that I'm mildly comfortable with, where I'm like, I would actually kind of go to Iceland in the sense that they're doing testing on arrival, they're tracing, and it's possible to social distance there in the sense that it's nature.
Right. Most of the things that you'd want to do are outside.
Yes. So I generally feel good about that. I'm surprised, and they've done a really good job handling it. I'm kind of surprised they want to open the floodgates to tourists in the way that they are because, they're not limiting, I don't know how you would limit people, but I'm saying they're not adding major restrictions. So how do you feel would you feel comfortable going to Iceland when this happens?
I think Iceland, it depends, right? But it's interesting because they can restrict it quite a bit by just sort of limiting flights.
Well, wait till WoWer 2.0 starts. Then all bets are off.
Right. But so they have some options for that. So if I'm Iceland Air, maybe I don't run Seattle Reykjavik and it sort of handles itself.
That's true.
Right. And maybe I don't run, from New York either. So they have a lot more control. And, but that's the thing, Iceland and Spokane are about the same size in terms of both population and geographical area. And if we had a way of controlling our points of entry, Spokane is pretty, it's fine. We haven't had any new cases for 4 days. All the cases that we've had in the week and a half prior to that are in nursing homes. And, if we were able to confidently test, I think it'd be fine. So that's the thing with Iceland. If they feel like they have a way to confidently test, I think that they should have some screening ahead of time rather than just screening on arrival. You know,
Is there a
like,
way? How could that actually work? I guess because you're right. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Is ideally you would be screened before you get on the plane. Because if you get on a plane and someone afterwards, how does the tracing actually work? Because if you're on a plane and one person tests positive, what do they tell you then? Like, go hide for 2 weeks?
no, I feel like it'd be like this plane goes back. So
Well,
it's
but
like
so
that's sort of the
they
thing. Like
test
if
on
they could do
arrival,
some
though.
kind of right, they're testing on arrival, but if you could do some kind of rapid testing, even like
Yeah.
the ones that they're using at the White House, which aren't super accurate, but are better than nothing. Like if they could do those at the gate,
Hmm.
or
Yep.
at check-in.
Hmm.
And we saw something like Clear is trying to do a like linking health stuff with Clear. I think they're thinking about like the future of like sporting events and things like that. So um, yeah, I think that would make a difference. If it's like, okay, like getting on the plane, we felt like there was nobody who was positive. Getting off the plane, we did like our more in-depth test. And yeah, I mean, especially if they can do it and encourage people to come for longer trips,
Hmm.
like I think that would be good too. Like rather than they've sort of positioned Iceland as like a great place for a weekend break
Right.
for a long time, but if they started positioning it as like, here's what 3 weeks in Iceland would look like,
Hmm.
and like, sure, like if you're here and we need you to self isolate for 7 days or whatever, but like, look at these amazing places where you could stay, and there's a plan, and I think it's one of the
Yeah.
few countries that could probably get away with it just based off of
No, I agree.
their
So
geography.
I'm still putting thought into it, but full disclosure, that is the one place I am actually considering going. And if we go, I would go for like 2 weeks because why the hell not? It's an escape. And because that way you're not. And then when I get back to the US, of course, I would stay home for 2 weeks and not go anywhere. So, like, I feel more comfortable. It's the first thing I've sort of felt quasi comfortable about. We'll see how it evolves. I first want to see what they all develop with their guidelines and everything because they haven't fully published them. But it sounds more promising than anything else. And if they're doing
Yeah.
better than most, then
Well, and that's the biggest thing. Like they're able to control their borders, and if they're able to do testing and have the infrastructure, um, that's actually what makes me so mad about the current situation in the U.S.
yeah.
is like it makes me so angry. Like this is a country that ended 2 world wars, put men on the moon, and like you can't get cotton swabs to people and like do some tests so that we can actually just live a quasi normal life. It drives me bonkers. Like, so
So actually, along those lines, would you feel so? Would you feel more comfortable, given everything, given how things currently are? Would you feel more comfortable on June 15th going to Iceland or going domestically on a pick a type of trip?
um, I mean, that's the thing. It comes down to a plan, right? Iceland has
Yeah,
a plan.
yeah,
So I feel good about that. Like if I were in Europe or if I were in Canada and I were deciding between going, to the US or going to Iceland, I would go to Iceland.
yep. No, I agree. I agree.
I would hands down go to Reykjavik before I would go to Miami.
Yeah. Well, that's I mean
Right? So
that's
is,
that is true. What?
yeah. Yeah. So Alan's asking about having guests. Let us know if there's guests you'd like us to have. We're happy to have whoever on, pretty much. I don't think
Yes. Let
people
us
would
know who
say
you think.
that. It'll be really embarrassing if people say no. But in general, like we're happy to have anyone on. Yeah.
And I do see several mentions asking people. Justin Rusley, who is pretty controversial.
Yeah, maybe
So,
not.
but I will say, a very nice guy.
Right.
Once
He's
if he's not doing his shtick, he's actually a genuinely nice person when he's not. I don't want to ruin his shtick, but so.
right. Right. That's the thing. We don't want to ruin his shtick. So yeah, it's interesting.
But yes, that's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, we need
Or
Sean
we can
again,
just have
hobby.
Sean on every week.
Ah,
I know, and neither Ford or Nick want to be on live streams. I mean, Nick would come by and like wave,
Doug
but
Parker. That's
yeah, I think my husband's about 30 seconds away from starting a YouTube channel on how to fix things around your house because it seems to be a concern. Like he helped Andrew fix his toilet over WhatsApp, and I was like very proud of both of them.
Well, our neighbor's freezer broke this morning at 6 a.m., so she was bringing over all her meat to put in our freezer at that hour. So if he could
Oh,
have helped with
well,
that at 3 a.m.
that's good.
Oh,
Man, sorry. I was like, oh, that's an interesting email from Hyatt, but it's from my Hyatt concierge, and it's like 6,000 words.
was it like the nice check-in email that they?
No, it looks like they're actually looking at doing like the things that we thought that they would be doing with the concierge thing, but they've got time, right? So that's the whole
No,
thing is like, what are you doing now that you have time?
I'm surprised they haven't laid them or temper or furloughed them because that's
They
what Marriott.
specifically, like after Marriott said that they were furloughing the ambassadors, I
Yeah,
specifically got an email from Hyatt and it's like, we're still working.
it's nice. Good job.
I
Hyatt
mean,
has
I
done
think
a good.
it's helpful that they're small in comparison, right? Like Hyatt has a lot more flexibility and a lot of the things that they've done before that probably didn't really cost them much, like the guest of honor. That can't be that expensive in the grand
No.
scheme of things, but is really nice. Um, Puts them way ahead for right now. Like it's so people are going to want to travel with their families or to see their families. And that's
Yep.
like
No,
a
it's true.
layup of a benefit.
It's true. It's true. I am excited to see what truly innovative promotions we see either from hotel programs or airline programs because there's some really once we have a better sense of things, there's some cool angles they can take, and I wonder which programs will pursue those unique angles. So we'll see. I have some specific ideas. I don't want to give away too many though, but
Right. Right. But if you run a loyalty program and need some ideas, Ben's available for consulting.
I
I'll send you an
actually can't
invoice and
remember my
everything.
ideas right now. I swear I had some though. Had some a few days ago. I was like, they should, yeah, but
Right.
oh well.
You should make a list.
I should. I need to. I always have these like ideas for things, whatever blog posts. Like I have these really good thoughts. I'm like, probably not actually good, but in my head they are. And I'm like, it has to be a list of like several things up. But then I ever write down one thought, and then it's just the whole thing disappears.
Right. Can you do like voice notes?
Ford does
I know that
voice.
you wouldn't be able to retrieve the voice notes.
No, I wouldn't. And Ford is annoying enough with voice to text. He talks on. He like sends people text. But I'm just like, don't talk to it, please.
Oh, that's grounds for divorce.
Yeah. So.
I actually had Nick disable the OK Google. I was like, you sound like a dick being like, OK Google, and like talking to Siri, like type it in
Wait,
or
what is OK
leave
Google?
the room.
Like talking
It's
to
like
Siri?
ask Siri. Yeah. I was like, no, it's annoying because like I asked you, I wasn't asking you to Google. I'm like, do people talking to Alexa? Like my nephew yells at Alexa.
My dad over Christmas, he's not very tech savvy. He got his first cell phone only a couple of years ago.
Right.
So
we will not be having our dads on for a Father's Day brunch, just FYI, because it would.
Oh, might be fun.
It would. I mean, we'd have to start like a week ahead.
He met Alexa for the first time, and so he started having her play songs, and his mind was just blown. He was like, Alexa, play, and of course it was like Gone with the Wind and other. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Whatever movie.
Right.
It was
Alexa, play Dr. Zhivago. Yeah.
Literally. So yes, that was. I was just like, yeah.
I love your dad.
Nothing since like 1970 on there. So, and Alexa or whatever her name is had all of them. So
she pulled it
good
off.
job.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's busy.
Life.
That's funny. I love that.
Yeah, we'll figure out. We're gonna have a guest on maybe Sunday if we have to do one. It'll be fun. We'll figure out. We should do maybe we should do. It'd be fun. How can we? Is there a way we can do an airline trivia? I don't know.
A game?
Sorry? Yeah.
Like a game? Yeah, I was
people,
thinking about that. I also, Mike messaged, he's like, we should do something on like how to plane spot for kids. Like, because there's a lot of like parents are tired.
So plane spot, like how to look at plane or how to.
Right. How do you tell planes apart and like do something that's sort of fun?
I have to update that post anyway. I do have a post from a long time ago how to tell different planes apart, and that is.
Yeah, so I think we could do something sort of fun and do like a little quiz and interactive. I don't know if I can get a trivia contest technology-wise together by Sunday.
I mean, we could
That
have
sounds like a
people
lot of work.
type in, see who types it in fastest, but that might not fully.
Right, but that's sort of a disadvantage for like what are people's internet. We did online trivia with the like we generally do trivia here. I could find out what they used. That was
We can do like a something, but
have prizes. We can send you some COVID-free amenity kits that have been safely quarantined in our houses for months and months and months.
I swear there's some box somewhere I have a bunch in, but I can't find them anymore. So I don't know
Do
what
you, or
happened.
did I give them away for you?
I think most of them have been given away, so it's just at this point some Ramoa ones. So maybe I will part with those
I
eventually.
have no Ramoa amenity kits.
Okay, well
I was
next time I
thinking about
see you,
this
I will.
actually with like a little bit of my sadness about not flying. It's like I have not kept an amenity kit for myself in like 8 years.
Which now they're more useful than ever because they
Right, and I
double as.
was like, hmm,
Like you really want like
hmm,
it's true.
hmm.
Polaris face mask though.
I don't, and it was just like, you know. Some of them I was
Which
like, oh, I really love this one.
which airline will have the most fashionables? Will this be new like, bling Emirates first class amenities?
Alitalia.
Yeah, but
You
come
said
on,
which is going to be the most fashionable? It's Alitalia because that's where they're going to put all of their government bailout money into. We're going to have new livery, new uniforms, new amenity kits,
they're not
and
owned by
freshly
etiquette
redesigned
anymore.
menus that have the same things that they've had on them for the past 100 years because it was perfect.
It's true. That's but couldn't you see like Emirates having a very hideous but expensive looking, blinged out with little
Everything, yeah,
rhinestones?
right, right. Emirates makes me. I mean, you know how I feel at Emirates and Dubai in general.
Well,
It's
I mean,
like
fair enough on Dubai, but Emirates, come on, there's
well,
nowhere.
I just think that you could have that understated luxury is a thing and actually is
Absolutely.
what defines luxury is when things are a little bit understated rather than like, look, we put some gold foil on this, that makes it nice.
All of which is fair, but when you have the gold foil, it looks nice, which is not the good part. But when you have the shower and the bar and
Yeah,
the
no, I'm
vegetable,
not contesting that. I just think that like I would not be looking to Emirates to come up with the most fashionable
no,
anything
the
ever.
most ridiculous though, I would come
It
up,
would be yes, grandiose and splashy and like the fact that their 777 suites have binoculars. Like
everyone. You don't need. Come
it's
on, when you're
superfluous,
flying,
but
when you,
I'm not saying it's not fun. I think if you're looking for something on the fashion end, it would probably come from like an Air France, an Alitalia.
I mean, binoculars are basically a necessity. Like before they had binoculars on Emirates, everybody, come on, you're sitting in first class seat, you're thinking, I wish I had a pair of binoculars. And Emirates finally answered that
That's true.
question
That's
for
what I've thought on every Emirates flight. Damn, where are my binoculars? No,
Right.
mostly what I want on Emirates flight is a remote so I can turn off the TVs of the empty suites.
It's true. They do. That's I do wonder when those Emirates A380s will be flying again. That's
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. Are you enjoying being home? Like now that you've been home for like a while and you're like, oh, this is maybe what my life would look like if I.
yes, it has been. It's funny because I don't even. First of all, Ford has learned to cook, which has been a life changing because like it was pathetic, as Tiffany knows. We would like order eggs by delivery before that, and
It was
now
awful. Every time I was there, I
yes.
was like, can I just get like a dozen raw eggs for this
So,
weekend while I'm here?
but Ford has gone from zero to hero when it comes to cooking. Like every single meal has been very good, and I have
Oh,
been taking pictures. So soon I will just do a post with all of the gourmet creations of his. Thanks
I
to
love
the
that.
instant pot. I keep thinking it's an Instapot, probably because Instagram. I don't know.
I think because I say Instapot, but it is actually, I
Oh,
looked at
that
mine
is why.
today. I'm like,
That's
oh, it's
Instant Pot.
Instant Pot. That was a missed opportunity.
Sorry. So
Y'all
thanks
should have
for
just
that,
gone with Instapot.
which has been fantastic. So that has made being at home much more pleasant. And in general, this is a lot that has evolved for me over from living in hotels where, I've gone from one extreme to the other. Winston makes me want to be home, and it's not that miserable. I think it's the things I miss are like having a gym to go to, but I
Right.
understand now that's the toughest thing. Now we run at 5:30, which is a.m., which is not what I would like to be doing at 5:30 a.m., but that's like there's no
No.
people and it's not hot yet, so that's just how it
So that's
is.
the option.
Are you hating it, or how are you? Or how are you?
No, I mean, we have a yard and a lot of projects, so that helps tremendously. But it's one of those things like being home for longer has been helpful in realizing like, oh, okay, like we should do these things. And like some of the projects, or just the like actually thinking about like how do we make our yard a pleasant environment, or, you know, uh, just the things, right, that you don't think about because you're never really home for long enough for it to matter.
Mhm.
And so that's been sort of like the blank walls in my office. Like now I've been home for long enough where it's like, okay, maybe I could actually think about getting some art, because generally it's like home has just been a place to do laundry and where the dog is. So
Yes.
it's
No,
just different. Like I'm getting more comfortable with it. Like this after like the second week I was ready to go somewhere, and now it's like, well, what can I do to make my house more where someplace I
you
want
live
to
here
be?
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I live here now.
getting used to it at this point. It's at some point. It's like it's weird. I don't miss. I mean, I miss travel a little bit, but almost what I miss most is just going to the gym or going to a restaurant and like just getting out of the house to go places sometimes. Like
Right. I mean, going to a restaurant would be amazing, especially
yes.
a good restaurant, which
And
generally
the
for
thing
me
is
has
also,
involved some travel.
yeah.
Spokane dining seems a little pretentious.
And now that Ford's cooking, it's like we used to go out a lot to eat. I don't even want to go to restaurants that often, but it would be nice once a week to go and
Right.
have a drink that you're not making yourself and be like,
Yeah, and have a break. Yeah, we had takeout barbecue last night, and Nick was like, "This is why we don't go out because it's not as
not as
good
good.
as what we would have
No,
done."
food is not as good outside the house. And that's the thing is now
Unless
restaurants
you're
are
going
open.
to like a really special or different or interesting. Like we have a ceviche bar here, which is actually like I'm not making ceviche. Like it's just not happening. Are you confused that we have one? It's
Yeah.
run by the guy who won Top Chef. He
Oh,
thinks quite highly of himself. He
okay.
has a ceviche bar. We call it the $30 ceviche place. I don't think it's actually $30. And I realize $30 is an appropriate price for ceviche elsewhere. But $30 in Spokane, like you can also get two prime rib specials. So it's pricey. And he now also has like a lobster roll place where it's also like, $18 for a lobster roll, which I realize is what lobster rolls cost in other places, but nothing is that expensive in Spokane.
Oh. So are restaurants opening like next? When do they open for dine-in?
Well, some restaurants for dine-in, never. 2026 at this point.
So there's no plan
Um,
yet to open restaurants.
well, the challenge is that in Spokane, most restaurants are very small in
Right.
terms of just their footprint. Like we don't have chains. There's an Olive Garden like in Spokane Valley, but we don't, it's small restaurants. And you've been to some of the restaurants here. It's like they have 6 tables. So you're going to open at 25% capacity and you're going to
No.
have 1.5 tables worth of seating. Like it's just not going to be financially viable. What a lot of the restaurants here are doing now, like they're not even open for takeout. It's you pre-order the day before, or there's like certain days of the week, and there's like some set menus. I feel like that's sort of what will be happening. Maybe they'll expand to being like real time ordering rather than we're going to shop and cook only what's ordered, which is the current situation. Like you can't, if you were just like right now, be like, I don't want to cook. Your option is pretty much pizza.
Pizza. That sounds really good right about now.
It doesn't work for me. So
Sounds so. Yeah, you can, but that's ooh, what I would give for a pizza, but not happening. So that's
I feel like, I mean, could you come up with some kind of like, pizza that fits with your program?
well, it's not even. Sorry, it's not even until 5:30 p.m. I don't have a desire for pizza, but once I can't eat anymore at 5:30, that's
Mm.
when the desire. It's the late night pizza munchies that kick in. Though not munchies, just well, I don't know. Do munchies necessarily have a do they have a connotation?
It is pretty specific.
Okay, sorry, they're not munchies. Just I mean, late night pizza desires. By late night, I mean 7:30. That is late night for me. So it's just the truth. But speaking of which, it's 7:30 already. Almost.
So,
Okay, we'll have a guest Sunday. We'll find a good one. Other than Sean M. We need Sean M soon though. I mean, we need more stories. We
yeah,
should just
that
have
was
like a
fun.
separate story time with Sean.
Storage motion. I love that. That'd be fun. Yeah. So let's think about what we can do for Sunday, and we'll go from there. But I think it was fun. I think it was good to catch up. We've had a busy few happy hours, so
It was indeed.
but
Thank you,
cover
guys.
all the basics. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and have a nice Friday, right? Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and Sunday.
Hopefully you work for one of these companies that's like, we're just not working on Fridays anymore, which seems to be more and more.
And cheers. Have happy drinking to those of you who are drinking. Also jealous, but anyway.
Yeah. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
joining us.